Hello students, today I am going to teach you the adaptive or acquired immunities subtypes, and these are active and passive immunity, right? And also active and passive immunity are also again categorizes into natural and artificial as well in both of cases, as well as active immunity as well as passive immunity. Okay, so these are some categories under the adaptive or acquired immunity. So what we are talking about it. Actually, I added some brief description about all these in the first video lecture of the immunology, as named introduction. You can go and check out in the playlist. And now we are discussing in very detailed manner. Okay, so first of all, I want to say that active and passive immunity, in both of these cases, I would uh, discuss all these points side by side in comparison, so that you can understand that okay, what are the conditions in the active immunity, what are the conditions in the passive immunity, and so on. Okay, so first of all, I'm uh, coming in active immunity. So active immunity is that immunity which is produced in the host's own cell or own body, right? So if you are producing the antibodies in your own body, okay, so it means this is the active immunity, because host's active role is there. Active role of host's immune system, right? So if that is happening, then it means it will be called as active immunity. Otherwise it will be called as passive immunity. Means in passive immunity, host's body, host's immune system is not actively participate, right? Actively form immune particles or immune molecules, immune cells, right? So that's why it is called as passive, because here no active role. But in case of active, there is an active role. So that's why active and passive both are different, right? So in case of passive immunity, antibodies against a specific disease or pathogen can be created in the, or can be formed in the any another animal's body or in vitro laboratory conditions, right? So suppose in another animal's body, right? Like suppose this is another animal, okay, and here antibody is produced, and you are taking up this antibody, right? And then you are giving to another person, right? So it means it is created in another person and you are giving to the another person, right? So it means antibody which is created in the another person's means active role was not of the and person who is human, right? So it means that's why it is called as passive immunity. Otherwise, in second condition, in vitro laboratory condition, here monoclonal or polyclonal antibodies are formed. Okay, so monoclonal antibodies are very important, and we will discuss later on in this immunology. Okay, so that monoclonal antibody are formed in which some specific cells are taken up, uh, and on the basis of these specific antibodies are formed. So that's why it is any specific which is only one type, then it will be called as monoclonal. And if we are forming many type of antibodies, then it will be called as polyclonal antibodies. And that conditions are happens in the laboratory. Okay, but in case of active immunity, here the same person, suppose a bacteria, okay, or pathogen is encounters to this human, right? So it itself made the immunity for him, right? So it means its host's active role is there, and that's why it is called as active immunity, right? But here no active role of the host, that's why it is called as passive immunity. Next is the lymphocyte activation is man. In the active immunity, lymphocyte activation is very compulsory and very mandatory. Okay, because if a host want to create some antibodies, if host want to create or produces some immune molecules, so it means their lymphocytes should be activated, right? But in case of passive, no lymphocyte activation, because there is no role of antibody or any immune molecules or formation in happens in our body, because we are just directly taking up from the another person. Okay, suppose you are giving the pathogen into this uh, organism, and then you are taking up directly ready-made antibodies and give to the human, then it means human do not need to be formed now a time the similar kind of antibody, because he's already getting from the outside. So why he will be created? Okay, why he will create? So that in this condition, human will not create any antibody, and that's why no lymphocyte activation will be needed. Next is the production of the memory cells. And memory cells are very important, which will help in the secondary immune response, or we can say that it boosts it boosts immunity, right? Or that's why it is called as booster immunity or anamnestic immunity, okay, or anamnestic immune response. So in the second time immune response, in the secondary immune response, we already created our memory cells in the time of first time or primary immune response, which will be help in the secondary immune response, and we are more active. Okay, because we know that what type of efforts we had done in the primary immune response, right? So we already created all the memory, and these memory are stored in the memory cells, right? So that time immune cells will be recognized very fastly and work very fastly. But in case of passive immunity, the host didn't create any immune cells or any antibody, so that's why he don't know that how the antibody were formed. So that's why they didn't create any antibodies, and therefore they do not create any memory cells as well. So they do not have memory cells. It means whenever the expiry date of that passive immunity will happens, and after that any pathogen will come to the host, then he will be diseased, because now a time he do not have any memory cells, right? So he don't know that how I have to create. That time he again should have to rely on the antibodies which are already prepared or ready made in the another organism, right? But if expiry of the passive immunity which he gained previously is more than in the that meanwhile duration time, he will not affected with the pathogen, but after the expiry date, he will be affected surely. So there is a difference between the uh, uh, primary and secondary immune response, and the need of memory cells is, I think you might understand. Longer time takes to be effective in case of active immunity, and that is called as latent period. So latent period might be 4 days to 4 weeks almost. Okay, but in case of passive immunity, no latent period is required, right? And this is very short, or take very short time to be effective, and it means it is almost effective. Okay, so the why the active immunity takes longer time? Because they require antigen, okay, antigen exposure or presentation by another cells, right? And what are these another cells? These another cells are APC, or it might be phagocytes, which we already discussed. You can go and check out the video already uploaded on this channel. Okay, so these are APC or phagocytes, right? So these cells already have some antigens on their surface, and they are giving these antigens to the lymphocytes, and lymphocyte now activated, get activated, and they start producing the antibodies, right? So it means it wait for some time whenever the pathogens or any antigen are exposing to those lymphocytes. So in the meanwhile time, it takes long. Okay, so that's why active immunity starts late, starts and take long time to be effective, but it is very effective, right? For the persons. Okay, but in case of passive immunity is also effective, no doubt, but it is very specific. Okay, and suppose if you are no, infected with the dengue, right? And you are taking up the any antibodies against these dengue, which which are already developed in the another person, right? So it means you get cured with the dengue, but you are not cured with the malaria, because these antibodies were not uh, able to fight against the malarial pathogens. Okay, but in case of active immunity, suppose active immunity which is created in our body against the dengue, then it can also able to create against the malaria as well. Okay. So it means our immunity, whenever it is active type of immunity, that time it is very good. Otherwise, we take some passive immunity, but passive immunity is no doubt it is effective, but it is very specific. So we are taking up only that particular. We are not having for the against for the any pathogen. Okay. So that is the some kind of drawback of the passive immunity. Active immunity exists for long time, or it might be permanent, and it may be for lifelong. Okay, but in case of passive immunity, it is temporary. Okay, so it is temporary, right? Means it is not longer, it is not for the longer time, because whenever you took the dose, so it has its own expiry. So after the expiry, it will not work, right? So it means passive immunity is not created in your body. That's why you cannot again and again proliferate that. But in case of active immunity, because that is created in your body, so you know very well that how I have to create this again. So that's why it is permanent and it is for long time immunity or other, or either maybe a lifelong, right? Uh, Another is negative phase in the immunity. In the active immunity is transient or lowered, but in case of passive immunity there is no negative phase. So I am coming to this point. What is the negative phase, right? So suppose a person who is immunizing against an antigen. Suppose this is starting phase. So this is called as lag phase. Again it suddenly hikes. This is called as log phase, and it reaches to peak and suddenly it starts slowing down, or it almost get stationary phase. And after the stationary phase it will lower down, right? It will lower down. So this will called as the decline phase. So now I am taking all these names. This is the lag phase, this is the log or exponential phase, right? This is the stationary phase, and this is the decline phase, right? So decline phase comes under the active immunity. Okay, because active immunity, you know that why I had created this type of immunity, because you know the which pathogen is there, and you created the active immunity. And active immunity, all the antibodies, all the complement material, everything goes to the pathogen and kill those pathogen. After the killing of pathogen, you should have to shut down this immune response, because whenever there is no person, or otherwise already all the persons had been killed, then why you are wasting your time, why you are wasting your energy, why you are creating again, producing again and again antibodies. So this time you have to be stop that process. And suddenly this process converted into the stationary phase. And after the stationary phase, whenever process has been completed and everything has get eliminated from your body or killed, uh, means now a time they are not able to cause disease in your body. That time your body again start going to the lower down, and this is the decline phase. Means body's immunity is immune response is going to lower down. Immunity is not going lower down, sorry, immune response is going to the lower down, and that is called as decline phase. And in this decline phase we are saying that this is the negative phase. So active immunity shows the negative phase in the its graph, but in the passive immunity there is no negative phase, because already you are given some specific dose, and that specific dose will be wasted in or will be consumed in the fighting with the pathogens. Okay, so it will be consumed already, and you do not have feedback type of system, right? So active immunity have a specific feedback type of system. They know that when I have to suddenly grow up our response, and when we have to suddenly decline, or we have to withdraw back our process. Okay, so there are two type of feedback: positive feedback and negative feedback, as you know in the cases of the endocrinology. And there are two type of phases, you know very well, right? So the similar kind of conditions are happens here, right? So declining of the immune response is very important. Otherwise, you are wasting your time, you are wasting your energy, and you are again and again creating some antibodies is not good for health, right? So that's why negative phase comes under the active immunity, but not under the passive immunity. Next, directly involvement of antigen is seen in the active immunity, but in case of passive immunity, there is no direct involvement because I already told you that pathogens are introduced into the another person or another animal or another organism, and they created antibody for us, and we are taken up antibody directly from there and passing to the host body, right? So it means the host body didn't exposes to the pathogen. He don't know that how I have to fight against the pathogen, how I have to fight against the this antigen, because they know the antigen but they didn't fight. So that's why direct involvement of antigen is only happens in the active immunity, but antigen is present in passive immunity, no doubt. But its role to create or its role in the stimulating the immunity is none, right? Now, the second point, the next point is immunity. Active immunity takes longer time. It means it sometimes for weeks, it sometimes for the months, right? But in case of uh, passive immunity, it is for temporary, as we discussed already. Okay, active immunity's side effects are very low because it was created in our body, so our body's cells are knowing that these are our own cell. We do not have to fight against them, right? But in case of passive immunity, they poses some kind of side effects, and it might be there are many side effects because they do not know that these are beneficial for us. They only think that okay, these are foreign particles and we have to fight against them, and that's why they kill them, they precipitate them, they agglutinate them, they try to fight against them. But whenever the uh, dosage of the passive immunity is given to host, then there are some another type of immunosuppression or some another type of uh, molecules or chemicals are given also there. Okay, so the side effects of the active immunity are very low, but in case of passive immunity it might be very high. Okay, but in it might be none in some person, right? So the reason behind this is that body may react to anti-sera, right? In case of passive immunity, because body know that anti-sera is not my own particle, and this is the foreign particle. So that's why they think that these are the foreign particles or these are the antigens, and we have to fight against them, right? So they think like them. Okay, so that's why side effects usually can see in this passive immunity. Okay, active immunity does not work in the immunodeficient persons because immunodeficient person do not have immune power, right? They already wasted their all the time, but they do not uh, create any immune response or any uh, active immune response, right? Because they are immunodeficient, means their body cannot support to fight, cannot support to produce the fighting cells or molecules. That's why they are immunodeficient. But in case of passive immunity, you are already taken from the another organism. So role of man immune production is was of the another organism. So you are not wasting your time and you are directly getting from them. So that's why if you are immunodeficient, or if a person is immunodeficient, so he didn't worry about that because he are directly taking the antibody, ready-made antibodies, and that's why it will work in the immunodeficient persons, no doubt. Okay, it will work. Now coming to the another uh, part, which are the types and examples of the of this immune system, right? So active immunity and passive immunity both have some different kind of different kind of types. These are the natural as well as artificial. In the case of passive, also natural and artificial. Okay, so natural, active, acquired immunity, right? So this is the natural, active, acquired immunity, right? But in case of this, we can say that artificial active acquired immunity in case of this, natural passive acquired immunity in case of this, artificial active, artificial passive acquired immunity. So there are four types under this umbrella of the under this umbrella of the acquired or adaptive immunity, right? So now we are thinking that which type of immunity will comes under the natural active immunity and which are comes under the natural uh, passive immunity, right? So suppose a person who is directly infected by the pathogen or microbes, okay, and this pathogen causes disease in that host. So it means pathogen is the another organism which is directly comes in their body, means this is the antigen, right? Antigen directly come the another organism in the host, and host itself created the antibodies against this antigen. It means that is the natural type of active immunity because a host's body was actively working in this condition. Okay, so active role of the host was there seen. But in case of passive natural, right? It means your body is not, means host's body is not working actively to creating any antibody, right? But it is also natural how it can be occur. So we are taking this some example like maternal antibodies which are passes from mother to fetus, okay, which has passes from mother to fetus, right? So this type of immunity which is provided through the placenta, and this is the IgG. You know very well that immunoglobulins G, right? So this type of because IgG passes from placenta, only one immunoglobulin is there which can pass through the placenta, and that is the IgG. So IgG is producing in the mother, but it is passing through the placenta to to their embryo, right? So it means they providing immunity to their own infants, to their baby, right? So this kind of immunity will uh, uh, will comes under the category of the natural passive immunity. Natural itself because it is naturally, we are not created in the laboratory, right? Or we are not created in the another uh, 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 artificial environment, right? So that's why it is natural because it was directly formed in the body, but it body was not of the host body. This body was its mother's body, so that's why it is called as another person's or another organism. So that's why it is called as passive, okay, but it is naturally occurring, so that's why natural passive immunity, right? Second example is the breastfeeding by the mother to their baby, and they provide through the milk some chemical. These are colostrum and IgA, right? So IgA and colostrum are very important and very useful for the uh, building up immunity, right? Colostrum is the yellow part of the milk which is directly secreting in the uh, mothers whenever they feed to their baby. Okay, so this is very important and they provide immunity to the baby, right? So it means that is created into the another organism, but it is naturally, so that's why it is natural passive immunity, right? Now coming to the artificial artificial active immunity and artificial passive immunity. Artificial means itself is created into the another laboratory or artificial conditions which we created, means it is not created in the any natural body. Okay, so how it can occur? Artificial means we are directly giving some vaccines, means vaccine are there outside. Okay, so vaccine may be killed microbe or viable but weakened, because we directly give the a viable microbe, then it will harm to the body and it may cause disease. But when but we sometimes weaken them, and that is called as attenuated type of vaccine or attenuated vaccine. Okay, so we are giving these type of microbes, and sometimes only antigenic part of that microbe, means we are taking only any protein or polysaccharide which can work as an antigen, so we are directly giving those particles to the host. Okay, otherwise inactivated toxin, directly we do not give the toxin. Inactivated toxin is also given to those pathogens, or sorry, given to those host. So we are taken up some particle or some organism and we suppress their activity so that they do not harm to our body. But whenever we find or we see these organism in our body, then our body will start thinking that okay, these are not mine part. Okay, so that's why I have to kill them, right? And now at time pathogens or any molecules which the already given to the body, these are not active, so that's why our body is continuously working, but pathogen reaction, a reaction from the pathogen side is none. So that's why we gain some immunity, right? So this type of immunity we created already in our body by the artificially providing first exposure or primary immune response, right? But in the second time, whenever suppose it really happens that a real pathogen comes and exposes to our body, that time our body will be ready for that, because in the first time whenever the artificially given these type of vaccines or attenuated type of pathogens or inactivated toxin, that time our body created antibodies, or and our body created immunity. And besides these immunity, they also created some memory cells, and these memory cells will help in the second time immune response, and we will work very fastly, very actively in the second time immune response. Okay, so the main target of the artificial active immunity is to provide strengthen to the our immune system priorly, means it is a proactive type of work. Okay, but in case of passive immunity, okay, there is a artificial type of immunity is also there. In this case, injecting serum antibodies which is already made in the another body. Okay, means we are directly taking up the serum already ready-made antibodies, right? But in case of natural, we are taking the antibodies no doubt, but from the mother. But in case of artificial type of passive immunity, in this we are taking up the antibodies which are separated from the serum, means we directly uh, do not taking the serum. We are taken up the serum, and then we separate out, we sort it out, and we took only the particular antibodies which can fight with those pathogens. Means we are not taking all the antibodies, right? But in case of mother passes to the uh, organism, mother passes to their baby, they are passing general immunity, right? So that's why baby's immunity is versatile in that time, in the natural condition. But in artificial condition, it is only specific to those diseases only. These are not a generalized way. Okay, so hope you understand all these concepts of the artificial and natural type of active immunity and artificial and natural type of passive immunity. If you have any doubt, then please let me know. I will try to resolve your queries. Please comment below. And if you think that it is helpful for your study, and then please share this also to those persons who are needy. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.